Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Payoff Pitch presented by Fantasy Phenom. I'm Kyle. That's Mike. We're back. I got another 15 games for you on a hopefully cooler Wednesday. It's hot AF here in Sacramento.
Yo, send some of that warm warm weather my way, man. It's not hot as AF or AF. I totally screwed that one up. What's up, guys? I'm Mike. I'm here at the Payoff Pitch with Kyle. We're doing our thing. 15 games. It is broken up on DraftKings. Let's see. I think it's 4 game early, starting at 12:35 East Coast time, and a 9 game main at the traditional 7:05. So, interesting. I like these short slates, as you know. Ready to get at it.
Facts. How about tonight, man? We talked about Robbie Ray being that pivot from Sale. Bab goes out, complete game shutout. How many strikeouts do you have?
10 Ks for Robbie Ray against Pittsburgh.
Talked about that.
Looks pretty elite doing it, man. I mean, that's probably got to be a career performance for Robbie Ray, and I know this Diamondbacks team is going to be someone to reckon with this whole year. I mean, it just looks that way, top to bottom in this lineup. Obviously, if Greinke's going to come out and do what he's doing, Robbie Ray, to get Taijuan Walker back, and he's got upside. It's a pretty good team, man.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing if Zach Corbin, I was thinking of Zach Godley and Patrick Corbin at the same time. If Patrick Corbin or Zach Godley are your worst pitchers, I think you're in a good spot.
Yeah, and those two pitchers, obviously, we talk about Coors with what they're doing with their pitching staff. Those two pitchers kind of fit that style as well, keeping the ball on the ground.
Tyler Anderson, man. That hurt. You guys know.
No, before we get into that, I do want to say though, before we get off Arizona, they have a bullpen problem, man. I know Fernando Rodney, is an OG closer in a sense, but the dude probably has an ERA close to his save total. So that might be something they might do around trade deadline time. I don't know if they're the big spenders, but yeah, let's talk about Tyler Anderson because he single-handedly ruined my night, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners liked. So,
dude,
again, guys, if you're playing DFS in baseball, all of the numbers can point to one guy, and things can still not work out. That is just the name of the game, and you got to learn how to kind of roll with the punches and recognize that does happen. And I don't know, maybe you make one line to try and hedge your bet. In a sense, what kind of strategies can we employ for things like this, man?
Well, as we talk about, I think it's crucial in DFS. If you're a tournament player, you got to find ways to hedge your bet. I think it's a very profitable strategy, unless you're okay. Now, again, if you're a tournament player, I think you have to have the mindset that you can go out, lose 3-4 days in a row, and then hit nicely on that 5th day, and you make your money back and then some, right? That's kind of the approach.
More than that, yeah.
Yeah, you have to have that approach if you're a tournament player. One way to offset that is something I like to do that I've been testing is I play tournaments, right? So I'll play a single entry, to kind of offset the max enters. And if I play $5 in tournaments, I'm going to play 5 in cash. Now, another strategy that's actually even more conservative than that is a lot of people will play 20% of their buy-in in tournaments and 80% in cash. What that allows you to do is, if your line doesn't do as well, or you make a completely different line that's, cash oriented, you not only can make back your money, but you can make a profit.
Right, yeah. No, I agree. I think that's actually more commonplace, too. People that, find a percentage, that does obviously benefit those with larger bankroll. If you only have $50 in your FanDuel account, going 80-20 in a sense on a slate doesn't really work. So, I mean, at that point, if you're playing just one lineup, I recommend, there's different strategies. Like, I've played with things like they call a pyramid strategy, where you're playing 50-50, a 3-man, a single entry, and then a high-risk GPP, whether that be a satellite or something that pays only the top 15 to 20% of the entries. And so if you have a great lineup, it's going to cash in all of those. If you have a very good lineup, it's going to cash in 3 of those. If you have a okay lineup, it might cash in 2, in a sense. So there's different strategies, and if you guys have any questions about doing stuff like that, or you're ready to make, you've been playing the free roll contest, you're ready to make a deposit, and you want to make sure you do it in a smart way. Obviously, you can always reach out to Kyle and I, whether it be on Twitter or in our River group or anyway. Yep. Just let us know.
And Michael makes a good point here in the live chat. He says, trust the numbers; it'll bear out over time to benefit you.
Exactly.
And that's true. There's going to be, you got to ride the ebbs and waves. I know it's very easy, We're very much a instant gratification mindset group or style. DFS gambling. It's very much instant gratification. You can lose money quickly if you're not careful, and you can get frustrated really easily. It can seem like the end of the world if you lose 5 days in a row. And I think it's definitely a good strategy to play some free contests to find your strategy and then slowly enter it. That's what Sydney did. He scored a 250 score yesterday in a free contest, and that sucks. It's good, but it sucks he didn't win money. But he goes out tonight, and he has a really, really good night. He punted Devin Marrero. We talked about that in the Slack, or the River Only YouTube show.
Top scoring hitter thus far.
Yeah, so, you build a strategy and then enter cash game, and then start to enter it.
Exactly. And, again, it is that way in baseball. You're definitely going to have to roll with it. I know I'm more of a tournament player, and it can suck at times. You can go weeks without cashing. You can, but once you cash big, and it kind of makes up for it. You bring your bankroll back, you realize why you're into it, and to me it's just such a great supplement to watching sports. I'm such a big sports fan in general. I'm watching more sports than I ever thought imaginable, and DFS is just so much fun to supplement that. So absolutely. I enjoy it so much. I really do.
All right. Looking at the original or the opening.
That was a big tangent, Kyle. We just did that.
We did. That was a good little steal right there.
Sorry.
So opening, we got some warm weather in Texas, 86 degrees. Wind is blowing in tomorrow. Preliminary.
Warm weather in Texas. No shit. Wow.
Also in Miami, of course, they're in a dome though. You have 80 degrees in Baltimore tomorrow. 80 in Kansas City. 76 in St. Louis, 74 in Pittsburgh. A lot of places where wind is blowing
74 in Pittsburgh, dude. That means it's coming my way. Hallelujah.
I'll take some of that heat from here.
It'll probably bypass me.
And then your top runs so far are Toronto at 5.42, Boston at 5.28, Tampa at 5.11, Kansas City at 5.02 facing Matt Boyd. I can get behind that. And then Houston at 5.01, who had another nice night tonight. And Mike Fiers surprised us.
Did you just say Kansas City has a 5-point implied run total?
It does.
Wow. It's been a minute since that's been the case.
Starting with Arizona-Pittsburgh, we have wind blowing out to left field here. So favors lefties. You got a right-handed pitcher who gives it up to lefties. I'm sorry, it favors righties. I apologize. But favors righties. There's some power righties in this lineup, and Chad Kuhl has given up some home runs and fly balls this year. A lot of green on the sheets for Arizona. Looking at Paul Goldschmidt. I don't know if I pay up to him tomorrow, but got to look there. Brandon Drury's down to 2,400. If Chris Herman plays, he's down to 2,100. That's a beautiful price. Chris Owens is 3K. I think there's some plays if these guys play tomorrow. Obviously, it's a day game after a night game. Some guys could rest, but I think Chad Kuhl's attack.
Yeah. Looking at this early only slate on DraftKings, obviously when you have to play 2 pitchers, no one to pay up to, that immediately tells me that you're going to be able to get any bat that you necessarily want. And that is the reason why Paul Goldschmidt is priced like he is a monster or a alien of sorts.
Yeah.
I agree. You definitely attack Chad Kuhl. 4-game slate. Arizona is on it. It is not really a hitter's park. But not a lot of good teams on this slate either. I think you can say that as well. So not a lot of good teams, not a lot of good pitchers. Arizona is definitely one that I enjoy stacking in general, and I think I definitely would look there first. But I don't think I'll be alone in that. Interesting that Pittsburgh has a higher implied run total against Zach Godley, who's looked good. I mean,
yeah,
3 out of 4. I think it's 4 straight quality starts. I have notes. 4 straight quality starts. He actually has a 2.4K price rise. I think that has a lot to do with the
slate,
short slate. Yeah. So, but still 4 straight quality starts for Godley.
I would expect this to change, man. I don't see how the Pirates have the higher implied total. I think Zach Godley is the much better pitcher of the two. So I would expect this line to move in the morning.
Yeah, I think so too.
I do think Zach Godley's in play. He's in a pitcher's park, one of the better ones in the game for pitchers. Also keeps the ball on the ground.
They didn't score a run today.
Yeah, also keeps the ball on the ground a ton. Under 20% fly ball rate. And he's still striking out guys. I mean, 21% strikeout rate is plenty serviceable. So
I agree.
looking at some Zach Godley.
Gave up 1 fly ball versus Milwaukee in Miller Park last game. 1.
Wow. In Milwaukee, yeah. Mike Bolsinger and Tim Adelman. No surprise that this game has high implied totals. Tim Adelman actually pitched well last time out, but I think we can go right back to him. Toronto is finding their stride. On the reverse, Mike Bolsinger, extreme reverse split guy. He is getting killed by righties this year and just shutting down lefties. 136 average against lefties, 447 average versus righties. Almost 1 out of every 2 batters he faces against righties is getting on versus him.
I think you go right back to Toronto, though. I know that all the numbers. I think this is a game stack. I agree. I think you go right back to Toronto. Obviously, against Philly, Adelman had 14 ground balls, which I think equaled his season total or came close to it.
Yeah.
It's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. 14 ground balls is not replicable. And then before that game, he had allowed 9 earned runs in his previous 5 2/3 innings, and that was against Colorado and San Francisco. So it wasn't good before that game. Obviously, went 8 innings, didn't give up a run, struck out 4 against Philly. But I still think you can go after him here, especially this Toronto team that's got to be feeling good in that clubhouse, man. Especially when Donaldson and Bautista go back-to-back today, and they put up 17 runs the game before that. I mean, got to be a lot of smiles, got to be a lot of confidence, and Adelman is not a pitcher that scares me at all.
On the flip, though, you got Zach Cozart, who hit 2 home runs again today. Talked about him.
True.
I was all on that Cincy stack today. Zach Cozart was had to be in the middle of that, and Billy Hamilton had himself a decent game. Adam Duvall. I think you can look right back to these right-handed bats. You can look to Joey Votto, but for me, I'd rather pay down to the guys that Mike Bolsinger struggles with more. I'm not saying Votto can't squash those splits. I just think that play the numbers. He clearly is struggling versus righties. Let's stock up on the power bats, the righty bats.
Yeah. I mean, I went too low today. I'll admit it. Over Cozart, you come in on DK, same price once again.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You got to ride the hot hand against a bad pitcher once again versus righties. So
game stack.
I can agree with you there. And I think on a 4-game slate, you got to have a stack in play. So
game stack. I think it's viable.
It is.
Houston, Minnesota, we have Hector Santiago, who gave up more home runs last time to lefties. His average is even higher. Extreme reverse splits guy. He is now giving up over a 500 average, over 600 WOBA versus lefties. Almost 8 home runs per 9 versus lefties, Mike. Now, what bodes well for him?
On this season?
Yeah, on this season. What bodes well for him? Houston's a righty-dominant lineup. Josh Reddick is a guy that I could see being lefty, but other than that, I mean, your switch hitters will obviously bat right-handed. They have they have Brian McCann, he could play, so that would add another lefty, but all their switch hitters will bat right-handed. The only other lefty I think of is Nori Aoki, and he's no power threat.
Yeah, man, this guy's not been good, Santiago.
But
I don't know that I can.
I'm not going to say to play him, but his numbers versus righties are pretty good. 200 average, 249 WOBA. I'm not going to advocate playing him right now. That could change. I'm going to do a little more diving into this, but GPP potential? Dare I say that?
I don't know. It's tough just because I want to find some plays against him. I mean, this guy's given up 7 homers in his last 14 innings. That's a real stat. So,
but almost all were to lefties.
I mean, I guess they would have to have been. I mean, last 2 games were against the Rays, who tend to stack power lefties. So I could see that working out. I don't recall those games, to be honest, but I don't know. I mean, this team just put up 7 runs today against a pitcher that we liked.
Yep.
This team is just very hot. 7 runs, and
I'm just saying, don't be surprised if GPP play. Don't be surprised if he goes out and has a decent game.
Yep. I mean, maybe. I think Paulino is a better GPP play, in my opinion. Obviously, you're taking a chance on a guy that has only made 1 start in the majors, but he does have K upside. You know, they kind of did rush him a bit to get him here because they thought the guy was going to be Francis Martez, but battling injuries and having a rough start to AAA this year, and Martez, they went with Paulino. Paulino did have a above 10 K per 9 in the minors last 2 seasons. So he does have K upside. I think against the Twins, it's a viable GPP option. I mean, I don't know. I'd almost rather go with a guy I've never seen before than Santiago. I guess I'm putting myself there.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, the Twins haven't seen him either. We've seen that happen and work out plenty of times. So
True that.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out. And then finally, the last game on the slate is Philly, Miami. Dan Straley and Aaron Nola. I think Straley's going to be your top pitcher tomorrow. I think he rightly should be. He's facing a Philly team that is struggling. Bad.
Top 3 prices. The only 3 prices on this slate above 8K. Aaron Nola, Zach Godley, and Dan Straley coming in at top price at 9K on DraftKings. Phillies aren't doing it, man. So
I think you got to look at Straley. I think you're crazy not to.
lock him in, I guess.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with locking in Straley. On the flip, though, I kind of like Nola.
I do like Nola, man. I've always liked this guy.
Same. I've always loved Nola's stuff.
This is his 3rd start back, I believe. Aaron Nola, last time out, allowed 5 runs on 6 hits in 6 innings against Cincinnati to take the loss. The start before that is in Pittsburgh. He went 7, allowed 4 hits, and only 1 earned run. So kind of a tale of 2 starts there. Goes to Miami. Well, not a lot of lefties that I'm too concerned about. I've played this game before, though, with the righties that I'm kind of iffy on. So it's tough. But it's a short slate, so maybe you got to make a decision like that. And if everyone's on Straley, maybe Nola's could be a pivot in that sense because people don't like to, especially on FanDuel. Oh, I guess you can't do. Yeah, I guess on FanDuel, if everyone's on Straley,
yeah,
no one likes to go Nola because you get a lot of points for the win and such.
On FanDuel, they're a perfect pivot too because Nola's only 300 less. I do agree with what Michael said though. Miami bets have awoken, and I think moving Stanton.
Yes, they have.
Moving Stanton to that 2 hole was probably a really good move. You had Ozuna in the cleanup spot. Bohr right behind him gives him a lot of protection. So, I think the way that they are building their lineup now is very, very smart. I think Riddle's a perfectly capable 8-place hitter. But yeah, I really like. I think D. Gordon is finally catching his stride. When he gets on base, that automatically he's a table setter, and when he gets on base, I think the whole offense does better.
Damn right. I mean, that's the whole point of the game. I mean, that's the way baseball's played. It's interesting. I think this lineup has a lot of potential, especially with Justin Bohr kind of coming into his own. JT Realmuto, we saw what his potential was last year.
Yep.
And D. Gordon, like you said, we haven't really seen who he is this season yet. And
yeah.
Yelich, And then even Ozuna. I think Ozuna is somewhat an X factor team. The guy's still young. I mean,
He's catching
kind
stride.
of quietly having a great season. So the Miami stack I've played has won me some money, and it could be contrarian on a mini slate that has the Cincinnati-Toronto game with Arizona in a good spot, and then a lot of weak pitchers across the board.
Facts.
So I could go other side of this. I could go Nola or the Marlins. So that's kind of baseball for you, man. I think you dive into the stats. You kind of take a chance here and there. You try to lock down that pitcher, and then, I don't know, you toy with the bats until you figure out what works with your salary.
True. We got Chicago and San Diego and Oakland, Cleveland. Again, Cleveland's going to start at 6 o'clock. They're not on the main slate. They're not on the early slate. Neither is the Chicago game, so they might come out on FanDuel tomorrow with a 2-game express slate.
They did it on DraftKings, yes. I don't believe either of these games are part of the early slate.
Yeah, so I'd expect that. Arrieta versus San Diego, I think it's a very viable play. He still has his strikeout stuff. That is not diminished at all. In fact, it's actually 1% up this year from last year. What is up is his home runs, his fly balls, his hard contacts, so that's a concern, but San Diego, I think, is a matchup that you can exploit. His price will, obviously favor that. He's 10-3, probably the best pitcher on this 2-game slate. And then on the other side, we got Luis Perdomo. And what did I say about Kyle Schwarber today in that show, Mike?
Got a bomb. Yes, sir.
He's facing...
It's another guy.
Yep, he's facing righties again for the next 9 days. Or 9 games, and potential for him to break out of that slump. He is 2,800 on FanDuel, so
this is a game that the Cubs will win. I don't see any reason that they wouldn't. Again, 2-game slate. I don't really have much strategy on a 2-game slate, especially on DraftKings. You need 2 pitchers. You pick the 2 pitchers that will be chalk, and you try to differentiate somewhere with your bets.
Yeah, you got.
I don't know. Is there really that much more to it, man?
I don't think, not on a 2-game slate. I think you just take the pitchers.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't even know if you take the chalk. I think you take the pitchers in the best spots. I mean, if they're chalk, they're chalk. It's fine. You differentiate.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But I think, you just pick the 2 best pitchers. And this slate, I think it's going to be Arrieta and I want to say Clevenger.
I would say.
Really? I'm looking at Clevenger because of the strikeout potential versus Oakland.
Yeah, true.
Bauer just had 14 Ks. Clevenger has strikeout stuff, but Manaea's not having a scrub year himself, so...
Yeah, I was impressed with that last start against the Yanks. I guess maybe that's what skewed my mindset against. Yeah, I guess Oakland's much worse team than Cleveland, so it probably will be Clevenger. Clevenger's coming off a poor performance, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah,
should be interesting. Maybe on DraftKings, that SP2 between these 2 guys could be split.
I think take Schwarber. I think he should be a lock tomorrow at 2,800 for the price savings he allows alone with the upside. I look at. If Javi Baez plays, that's a cheap second base option. We talk about punting that position. And then if you can afford Rizzo, I go there. Maybe Zobrist as well. But I think a Cub stack should be in full force tomorrow. I think Perdomo is easily the worst pitcher on this slate.
Full force.
And then Oakland, Cleveland, we talked about Clevenger and Manaea. Both have really, really good strikeout stuff so far this year. I do, like I said, I'm going to give the edge to Clevenger because I think the A's strike out more than the Indians and are less prone. The A's are less prone to explode. So I think I'm going to give the edge to
A's?
Yeah.
The A's, Trevor Bauer had 14 strikeouts today. So, yeah.
I'm going to give the edge to Clevenger. Yep.
Kind of nuts. You saw that Danny Salazar was relegated to the bullpen. We're going with Clevenger.
I saw that. Ride the hot hand.
Why not? I mean, they've had success with doing that in the past, so let's see what happens.
Yeah. Who do you stack? I mean, you obviously can't just pick all Cubs, so who would be your 1 or 2 man stacks from the other games? I think you're going to have to probably pick a player against your pitcher. I mean, you don't have to, but Cleveland is not nearly as good from the right side, so I think Yan Gomes is a good catcher option versus Manaea. He's been killing lefties this year. Lindor is a shortstop option. He's 3,400 on FanDuel. 5K on DraftKings, that's hefty, but FanDuel a little more price friendly. And I think you got to look at Jed Lowry for second base. He's still 2,500 on FanDuel. Matt Joyce is a cheap outfield option, so I don't think there's any problem with playing guys against your pitcher. And remember, if you're, let's just say you have Jed Lowry, right? Jed Lowry goes out, hits a home run against Clevenger. So Jed Lowry's going to get you the 18.7 points, and you're going to lose the 3 points from the earned run from Clevenger. So it's still a net gain. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think you have to make that decision. Trying to find a solo bomb, and if you're playing in tournaments, man, Jose Ramirez is priced up big time, dude. 4,700.
I don't even like him from the right side of the plate.
No, me neither. I just saw that real quick and was.
Yeah.
Lindor, obviously, there's nobody on the Cubs that want to play shortstop, I don't think. But you gotta put him in the same mindset as Lindor or Chris Bryant, or Lindor or Rizzo,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like playing these little slates, man. I haven't been successful at it.
Fair enough. I actually find myself having more success on 2-game slates, 3-game slates. But, all right, starting with the main, New York and Baltimore. We got
9 games. Let's do it.
Masahiro Tanaka coming off a really nice performance in Baltimore. Or, sorry, not against Baltimore, but he's facing Baltimore. And this team strikes out a lot. Tanaka has strikeout stuff. Do we target Baltimore again with Tanaka?
Personally, no, I'm not. I know he's coming off obviously career game and career high strikeouts against Oakland, but we just talked about Oakland, and they just struck out 14 times against Trevor Bauer today. So obviously they are having a tough road trip.
Yep.
Those dudes. So Tanaka, I prefer him coming off an extra day of rest. He hasn't had a great year. Can he go out and have a great performance again? Yes. Is he going to have 13 strikeouts again? No. I don't think so.
On the flip, what about stacking against Tanaka? I think it's in play. I think you might see lower ownership on these Baltimore bets.
Dude, I'm still just confused as to what's going on with Brett Gardner, man. I've been with this guy literally since I was in the dugout with him in Double-A. This dude does not hit home runs. I don't really understand it. Something's going on, man.
Check this out, dude. They have this thing that Ken Griffey did called PEDs.
That thing.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Mark McGwire did them. Of course, I mean, the only guy that hasn't done them and been successful is Barry Bonds.
I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Brett Gardner, man. Maybe he, since when A-Rod got the boot, maybe he got A-Rod's locker and found something in the corner there.
Yo, A-Rod's the GOAT. I love A-Rod. I know a lot of Yankee fans hate him, and I love it because I love A-Rod.
Now that he's on that birth control, though. Goodness.
But yeah, I mean, O's are going to be a GPP stack. They can explode at any moment, but they have been ice cold.
Yeah, Adam Jones got the scratch again today, guys. I don't know. I think obviously nagging injury with him, so we'll see what happens going forward. They just not look good. Again, they did not score much today. They could not hit Luis Severino today. And it's been almost a tame stretch of some pretty poor offensive performances for the O's. So not really looking there. Gosman is someone I'm looking at to attack, man. Yep. I mean, you look on the other side. There's definitely a lot to like about attacking Gosman. I don't know. I think Matt Holiday's interesting. Another 2 bombs today. He's FanDuel price is very cheap. I don't know. I think you can kind of stack here, depending on what this lineup comes out to be. Obviously, they played Ref Snyder today at first base. I think Carter will be back in that lineup. We'll see what happens.
Truth, man. Looking at Milwaukee and New York, you got Jacob deGrom facing Milwaukee again, and Junior Guerrero, who has had a nice year so far. I know he got injured, so he's only had 2 games, but high strikeout numbers. He has struggled a little bit with lefties this year, and I mean he struck him out. Actually, I lied. He's actually allowing a lower average versus lefties, but giving up a ton more home runs, 62% fly ball rate in a limited sample size. So there is some concern there with that. Lucas Duda remains hot, hot, hot. Conforto, cooling off a little bit from where he was. Jay Bruce is always going to be home run or nothing. But I think I'm definitely not playing Guerrero, but I can see why I would stay away from him.
Yeah, hit the nail on the head with Duda, man. But he's a streaky player, so we'll see what happens. Obviously, his price is now reflecting what's going on. Junior Guerrero, whatever you want to say. A lot riding on this guy, man. I think they brought him up last year midseason and pitched really well. 9-3, 2.81 for the Brewers last year. Just tough to do. I mean, a rookie in that park. So he had a home run per nine of 0.74. So it's nice. It's good to see that from a hard thrower in Miller Park.
Yeah.
This obviously isn't in Miller Park, and he's had, like you said, 2 good starts to the season. Sandwiched by a lower body injury at running the bases, I believe.
Yeah.
I'd go either way with this play, man. Let's see. What is his price? I think he's really cheap on DraftKings as well.
He's 81 on FanDuel and 59 on DraftKings.
Yeah. So it's definitely an intriguing play. We know what the Mets can do on any given night, but we also know that they can be really bad on any given night if they are getting shut down. And I think we haven't seen the upside from Gary yet. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's still, I feel like there's something left to be seen from him.
I do think DeGrom is as much of a sure play as you can get tomorrow. We've seen what happens to chalk pitchers recently the last couple days, but DeGrom strikeout upside versus this team that strikes out a ton. I think you got to look at DeGrom tomorrow.
Yeah, it's an interesting call between the top 3 guys tomorrow: Scherzer, DeGrom, and Archer.
Oh, true. I forgot about Scherzer. Actually, I lied then. I kind of like Scherzer against the Giants in San Francisco more.
Definitely an interesting call. I think you can make the case for all 3 of those spots.
Archer and then Austin Dibbins Dirks will get the start for Texas tomorrow. I believe.
Nice job.
Yeah, buddy.
Mr. Bibbins.
Been practicing. Archer, I think, is in an amazing spot. Texas strikes out a ton. But there is always the power upside with Texas, and that is a concern. I would say they have a more deadly lineup right now than Milwaukee. So I would almost lean towards playing DeGrom over Archer, given the straight-up choice.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're saving that grand, so it is still a pivot because you're paying up there. Archer coming off a good start, I believe, in Toronto. Mm-hmm. Not mistaken. No, at Minnesota.
I think DeGrom is safer, and also I could argue that they have very similar upside.
It is, man. I've just been looking at what Archer's been doing and not having him. He's had 4 out of his last 5 games have gone for double-digit strikeouts, and I don't think you can make that case for anybody that's not named Chris Sale.
Yeah.
So definitely head turning. Texas, we know, can strike out a ton. Obviously, against a righty, their power guys are lefty, but they also do. Their power guys do strike out a ton. So it's in a hitter's park. I don't know. I like Archer tomorrow, and from a tournament perspective, because of the spots for DeGrom and Scherzer. Bibbins Dirk, it looks like he's been a career minor leaguer, man. Fangraphs has stats on him since 2006, and he made his major league debut this season. So that can't be a good sign.
Yeah. So there's something to be said about that. I think a righty versus Tampa that he, in limited sample size, has struggled versus lefties this year. Make the case to load up on some lefties for Tampa tomorrow.
I think so. Yeah. Usual suspect. We've been on this Tampa stack for a while.
Yeah, going to continue to go there. Just depends on who plays.
Just because they hit a lot of homers, man.
Yeah, and in Texas, so. All right, what about Drew Pomeranz and Mike Pelfrey? So, Pelfrey's interesting. Again, he walks a ton of people, but he doesn't seemingly get blown up as often as you would think he would, right? He does a very good job of, as best as he can, limiting the damage that he does with walks. He's not someone I would ever pitch, but he's not someone I immediately look to stack against.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know the deal with Pelfrey. Obviously, we thought the same. I did not think this was a good spot for Boston today. And sure enough, they were the stack to have. It seems like they put, 13 runs up on the board today.
Yeah.
Jackie Bradley, Devin Marrero, and Xander Bogaerts were there. Or Sam Travis even had a home run. Oh, no, he didn't have a home run. He put up 24 DraftKings points, though. I'm looking now at today's scoring, too. Shin Soo Choo with another home run today. We talked about that last game, but he's hot. We did talk about that on the Lock Show. Yeah. I'm not afraid to stack against Pelfrey. I see what you're saying. It hasn't been fruitful the last two starts. Because he's been wild and people just kind of take their base. He doesn't really give up many home runs either, it looks like. So
that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I typically stack against him, but Drew Pomeranz is going to be the ultimate GPP play. He either gets blown up, walks a ton of guys, pitches 4 or 5 innings, or he can get 10 strikeouts. And, look what happened last time, right? We talked about Sale versus Texas being that elite matchup. Pomeranz followed it up and did what we expected Sale to do.
Yeah, maybe it happens again.
Maybe it happens again. I still think, Chicago has been a very good batting team as of late. They're actually one of the better teams in the league, but they do still strike out, and I think Pomeranz has enough strikeout stuff to expose that. I think I do look at Mitch Moreland in this matchup. Pelfrey does struggle with lefties a little more than righties, so I look at Moreland. I look at Jackie Bradley Jr., maybe some Sandy Leone punt catching. If they play.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I could get behind with not stacking Boston, but I could also go ahead and do it as well. I don't know exactly where I would want to go depending on the lineup again, because today's lineup was totally different, man. Again, they were facing a lefty, but we saw Chris Young, Sam Travis, Marrero, obviously Rutledge was second with no Pedroia, so a lot can change, I think, where you're going to go if you do want to attack Pelfrey. And then, with the White Sox going and having an okay game against Sale today, I think that does a lot for their confidence, and I don't necessarily mind going either way with this play. Like we talked about with Nola and the Mariners, I think you can go Palm or the White Sox.
Yep, you can definitely stack against Pomeranz as well with the White Sox righties. Detroit and Kansas City, they have a really high implied total. Kansas City does 5.02 versus Matt Boyd, who has struggled everywhere this year, not been good at any point. So I can get there. And then on the reverse, Ian Kennedy hasn't exactly been lights out either. Giving up home runs left and right. High average exit velocity against him. Getting a lot of balls barreled against him. So go back to J.D. Martinez. Alex Avila should be in the lineup tomorrow. He has seemingly cooled down a little bit, but he still has those numbers that you can look at. Miguel Cabrera. So I think there's a Tiger stack that could be made if Cabrera plays. And on the flip, I think you got to look at Kane, Perez, and Bonifacio, and actually Whit Merrifield. His price jumped to $3,200. That's kind of high for FanDuel, but some righties on Kansas City make sense against Boyd for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. Alex Gordon's down to 2,600, man, on DraftKings. That's crazy. He's having a terrible season, man.
He hasn't done anything.
He really hasn't. Kansas City stack. Is this one of those days? Kansas City stack.
The last time I remember Kansas City having a 5 implied total was against the Giants, and they flopped.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
No, it was against the Rangers. That game went 13 innings.
It's tough for me to believe. I do like Bonifacio, man. I like what I've seen out of this guy today. Or not today, but this season.
Yep.
Ian Kennedy, second game back from the brief DL stint. Could be their best pitcher. We don't know yet. Obviously, they have Danny Duffy, but I feel like he's going to be one of those career middle of the order pitchers. I think you can definitely go after him. He's got the trifecta there: hard contact, fly ball, home run per 9, and then this team, the Detroit Tigers, can definitely hit him out. So I don't want to play Ian Kennedy. I obviously don't want to play Matt Boyd. I think you can find some bats on either side of this.
Yeah.
For sure.
Los Angeles, St. Louis, Carlos Martinez and Hyun-Jin Ryu. I think St. Louis righties are definitely in play, or lefties too. I mean, Hyun-Jin Ryu has been bad everywhere, so definitely can be stacked against. And Carlos Martinez, on the other hand, I think he could be an interesting play. He's not going to get a lot of ownership on this Main versus Dodgers lineup, but I think they can be attacked.
Attack the Dodgers?
With Martinez, yeah.
Or with Martinez, yeah, he's not going to get a lot of play for sure. So you look at he's number 4 after Archer as far as pricing, and I think you can easily say that against the Dodgers, he's going to be the guy that gets the least amount of ownership. We've seen what this guy can do when he's on, but he is a hard thrower that does walk a ton as well. And the Dodgers, they put up 9 runs again today, right?
Yep, they're hot. So I don't think Carlos Martinez is going to get a lot of ownership at all.
No, I don't think so either. I don't really want to stack against Martinez, though. I've seen what he can do again.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not stacking against him, and I think he's even in play if you want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hyun-Jin Ryu definitely stackable against. I look at Pham. Of course, 3,200 on FanDuel. Gorko. Yadi Molina's not a bad play, actually. He's been playing well of late. So, some guys to be had there.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Atlanta, Los Angeles. Albert Pujols hit .599 today. He gets to face he faces a lefty tomorrow in Jaime Garcia. Does he hit 600?
I think he's got a good shot at it, man. We talked about Bartolo Colon. I mean, it's a good spot for him to do it. I mean, I guess he still can. Game's not over, looks like.
No,
maybe he does it.
It's 9-3.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I believe.
Okay.
I believe it's over.
But it could happen. I feel like he's going to want to put this one past him. So.
Yeah, I mean he's hit a home run in 2 of the last 3 games or 2 straight. So.
And he gets a lefty matchup. Obviously, Garcia against this Angel team could be in play. I don't necessarily count it out.
No, I agree with you. I don't know
if both these pitchers could potentially be in play.
I think I'm off Chavez. I think he's kind of come back down to earth a little bit from where he was when he started. So I don't think I go there. I don't know that I stack against him. I think this is just a game fade for me on a 9-game slate. Albert Pujols is a potential one-off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Jaime Garcia a little bit. I'll see. I mean, he's coming off 2 straight good performances, keeping the ball on the ground this season. Does have a little bit of K upside. Did strike out 8 Nationals not too long ago. And this Angels team without Trout, being that he's a lefty, could see some other guys that ride the bench more often than not. So, could be an interesting play.
Truth. Colorado is going to Seattle now. They're going to flip. James Paxton is back. Dude was putting up lights out numbers before he went on the DL. What do you think about him in Seattle? Obviously a much more friendly park versus the Colorado lineup.
Yeah, Jimmy Paxton. Shoulder issues, had an extended DL stint. I think it was a little bit longer than most expected.
Yeah.
I think he made his rehab start in AA. Let me make sure. 4 innings, 55 pitches, 2 runs, 5 hits. Control was sharp. He did not walk a batter. And like you said, lights out in those 6 starts before hitting the DL with a 1.43 ERA and a WHIP of 0.88. Yeah. In Coors.
No, it's in Seattle.
It's in Seattle.
Yeah, they flipped. They're doing the 2-game thing.
Well, that changes things. I was wondering why his price was at 8,200. I thought that he was in Coors. I thought he would be higher priced than 8,200. I mean, the Rockies do strike out a ton versus lefties, a lot more so than righties. So maybe that makes the case for him as getting some K upside. I mean, he is a strikeout pitcher in a sense.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a GPP play for me. only because I want to see how he pitches coming back from the DL. Shoulder issues are
And if
concerning.
he's 100%. And again, it's especially the fact that it was an extended DL stint and the fact that he only threw 55 pitches in his rehab start. So
Yeah, how fresh is he going to be? How loose. So
mhm,
that concerns me a little bit. So I think it's a GPP play
absolutely.
for sure. And then Antonio Senzatella, who has done an amazing job of keeping the ball on the ground this year. He's not giving up a lot of hard contact, not allowing a lot of hits against him, honestly. 231 average against him. So I don't know that I rush to stack Seattle either. This could be another game that I fade the batters in.
Yeah, best DraftKings performance of the season came out last game against St. Louis in Coors.
Yeah.
8 innings, didn't give up a run. 11-2 ground ball to fly ball. Only struck out 3, but still ended up with 25 points because he had that late inning performance. And this I was reading, man. Hoffman was their big prospect, and Senzatella got the call because they didn't want to rush Hoffman up. And now that they feel like Hoffman's kind of ready, it's like they can't send Senzatella down. The guy's 7-1 with a 3.2 ERA. So props to him, getting his spot and locking it down.
Yeah, so going to be interesting. I think initially I'm not looking at the bats in this game. And then finally, Washington and San Francisco, you have Matt Cain, who has been pitching lights out at home this year. I mean, this is arguably the best pitcher's park in the league, so he does have that going for him. And then you have Max Scherzer, who I think this park plays enormously to his style. He's a fly ball pitcher. Fly balls aren't going to go very far in SF, and the K upside versus Giants team that is just bad.
Yep, Scherzer obviously coming up to that start against San Diego, struck out 13 batters. Giants not good. Seems like a easy plug and play, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Scherzer's the sure bet of the slate, and I believe he's actually he's 200 more than DeGrom, and so I think Scherzer in SF versus SF or DeGrom versus Milwaukee, a lot more power upside. I think that choice is easy for me.
I think so too. I mean, it is a little bit different. $1,300 price difference on DraftKings between Scherzer and DeGrom. So Scherzer is going to handicap you as far as bats, but it's a good spot. I don't know. I just don't think that this is a spot to fade Scherzer, just like last week wasn't. And I guess
let me talk about this for a second. So I'm learning more and more that fading high price pitching can hurt you, and I think we're learning time and time and time again. High price bats do not equal high points. It's something. I mean, we've known that from the start, but I think we all get caught up in they got to play the big name bats, right? Rather than looking at numbers and looking at a matchup, I think we get too caught up in spending all the salary. We're like, we're 200 away from getting Bryce Harper. I'll just pay down to the next pitcher. You know what I mean? Things like that. Whereas it's just as easy for Bryce Harper to get a 0 as it is for the guy that's 2K. Not saying that they're of the same talent level, but you get my point. And so look at Devin Marrero today, right? 2,300 on FanDuel. Liked his spot, liked what he's been doing against lefties, and sure enough, he outscores all the high-priced guys on the slate.
Yeah, I agree. I think thinking about it on DraftKings, I don't see how you win a tournament on a big slate like this by not having the 2 top pitchers on DraftKings. And how often on a big slate like that did the 2 top pitchers, or is one of the 2 top pitchers like a guy under 8K? Yeah. Whereas, you can find multiple cheap guys today even that hit 2 homers. Zach Cozart, Marrero, they're out there. The winning lineup is going to have those in it. So if you want to take it down, I think you kind of have to have 2 high-priced pitchers on DraftKings on big slates like that. So
I think that
for cash games on DraftKings, I think it does make a lot of sense to stick with a high price pitcher and a mid to low price pitcher as your SC2. I think that's probably the way to play. But in tournaments on big slates, I think you have to have 2 guys that can realistically get you double digit strikeouts.
I agree with that. So I I'm starting to lean